motorsport lovers and family members, because tonight, welcome to Midweek Raceday, we have a family show. I'm Colin, Gennaro Bonafede, Chris Kutzer, and Andrew Horn are all with us. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you.
Gennaro's got some good news. Don't forget the microphone. We're
Yes,
going to get on
helps.
to Gennaro's good news just now. Chris has got some other good news as well about rallying. And Andrew is your proxy. So if you've got any questions, queries, or comments about giraffes, fast racing cars, or rally cars, or how to turn your speaker off on your monitor when you are live on air, send them into Andrew. He will read them, and then we'll get going. So, as a start off, we start. Gennaro is going to talk to us about great announcement for Germany, and then Chris says some cool stuff about rallying. You'll notice the car behind us, and that is Giraffe's daddy's car. And so Dumpy and Giraffe's daddy drove that car years ago, and our UK correspondent, Greg Sharman, thank you very much for sending us the images, first of all, for taking them, for finding it and sending it. So, first of all, Quibus Russ, your mom, please wish her a happy birthday for us. You shouldn't be watching us, you should be with your mom. Give her a hug for us, her first birthday as a widower. Our thoughts are with you as you celebrate birthday tonight. On to betterer news. Kevin Harvick came second at NASCAR, so we're waiting for the win, Greg, and then we'll have some fun. Moving more local afield, we've claimed them. They run in the South African Endurance Series. Nick Adcock and Michael Jensen have been testing, and I love that car. LMP3, it's got a 5-litre Nissan engine, goes like smoke, and gets their attention, so they've been training and testing and having a whole lot of fun.
Didn't they drive that car at the support race to Le Mans last year?
They did. No, not that one, because that was a Norma, and this is not a Norma. No. It's another one of the...
It's a Ligier, isn't it?
Andrew, you are right. I'm taking my cue from the nods of the giraffe.
I think so. I could be wrong, but I think so.
No, I think you are right.
They're very Ligier loyal.
Yeah, they are. And new JS53 Evo for the SA Endurance Series, going to be pretty interesting. Other things that happened. Mobile Ones went to, V8s went to Red Star. We were talking about that, big fancy cars at Red Star. It's tight.
Yeah, Red Star's a tight track currently, but I do hear that the guys at Red Star want to make some changes, which I think is fantastic news for South African motorsport. And
it's really lekker. It's right in the middle of the Millie Fields. Delmas is one of our favorite places, because there's that transport museum at Delmas. Remember that one? They've got the history of Formula One racing there.
No, I think you're referring to Bronkhorstspruit.
Same place.
Oh, okay. Well, close, yes.
There's Millie Fields, it's lekker. It's almost...
That's right.
It's same, but different.
It's close to the N4, so it's fine.
Yeah, the track N4, because track are the concession operators. Right, so V8s, they went racing at Red Star. It was toit. And podium was the same for race 1 and race 2. Mackie Adlam, Terry Wilford, and Thomas Reeb for race 1. And race 2, that was race 2. Race 1 was Terry came third and Mackie still won.
And Terry this time last week was scrabbling to get that car together, and he was running it in on Friday. I saw him and he was...
How did you?
Around there.
Yeah, and Mackie Adlam came second race, came from the back and won. Who said you can't pass?
Not saying anything.
I didn't say that.
Somebody said.
I heard that.
They say you can't pass on that track. I just say stick it up the inside on the brakes.
Go for a gap.
Yeah. And if there's not a gap, then muscle. Exactly. Yeah, damn straight. Motorsport is a semi-contact sport until the oaks want to murder you.
In the pits afterwards.
Or at a meeting before a race meeting, but we won't go there. You went racing, you tried to go racing. How did that go?
Next topic. So, how was your weekend?
Didn't you have Pratley Putty to put the hole in the gearbox at your
No, the problem was the casing of the gearbox had sort of meshed itself with the internals of the gearbox and was going absolutely no further.
So it's FUBOM?
It is a bit. But the car's back together, we got another gearbox, all good.
Okay, cool. And when is your race in this thing?
SAS next week, I think.
It's close.
Is it next week?
Yeah, PE, lovely stuff. Right, moving along. So initially, Gennaro sent me a message And we've known for a while that there's been some good news. And this news that is coming. And I'd put my sources told me one thing, and Henk's got a picture of what we thought it would be. So we thought it would be the BMW, the GT3 at the top, and you dying to test the Bucky at the bottom, the Total Excellium Bucky.
Yeah, I think so actually. I mean, I've given Stuart Thompson a call or two, but he doesn't reply. So we'll see how it goes.
That's a bit of a hint in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. I mean, we've seen the guys. I mean, look at Leroy Poulter, what he was doing until his accident. I mean, you can see what the guys do off-road. So, I mean, I'd love to give it a go. Tested a rally car when I was 15 down in Uitenhage. So, I mean, I've got no worries to go off-road.
Maybe we should try and hook you up with, we have contacts.
Oh, really?
Henk, can you talk to your people?
Please.
Get your people to talk
It'd be
to
cool.
their people.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
And then we can put cameras and stuff in the car.
Exactly.
That would be mega cool. But it was not a GT3 car. It's another one. Gennaro, what you driving?
So, obviously after last year's Kyalami 9 hour, we had a really good relationship with Volcanos Motorsport, and for them in Germany, as BMW is one of their top customer racing teams, they very much focus on the Nürburgring long track series. So it's the VLN, what was called VLN. Now it's called the Nürburgring Endurance Series, NES. And I mean, obviously 8 races a year at the Nürburgring, the Nordschleife, the long track 100.
Green Hell.
The Green Hell, yeah.
Kelvin's backyard.
Kelvin's backyard. I mean, that's one thing we've got to say. You know, he's I think probably one of the fastest 3 guys around that whole track, which is phenomenal. So yeah, and we just chatted to the team, and an opportunity came up. They said, well, listen, you got to get your permit A before you do anything at the Nürburgring. So they said, well, why don't we look at doing VLN 1, VLN 2 in an M240i Cup car, and see if we can get my permit A. And then once I've got permit A, who knows what happens after that.
So the M40, have you got a picture of it? No, that thing. That's a proper racing car.
Yeah, it's a proper
actually.
touring car, actually. I mean, it's based on obviously a BMW M240i normal road car, but obviously with all the bits and bobs that you need to go racing. So what the Nürburgring do very, very well is obviously safety is a big factor there. You can be Fernando Alonso, you can be whoever, but you still have to go through the exact same process anyone else needs to in order to get your permit A to race a GT3 car around
Martin
the Nürburgring.
Brundle had to go through that last year, and he ran that with his son. You see family shows. So there's Daddy's car, son, and we're going to talk more about. There's a whole bunch of daddies and kids.
So mom's also watching.
Yeah, always.
She's a great car in the background.
Yeah, exactly. See, she would have known. So we said, well, listen, let's have a look at what we can do. I mean, as you guys would have known, with the Euro at the moment, it's difficult to get backing that we need in Europe. Things are not cheap. So we managed to get this together, and the cool thing is that I'm actually in the car with a Japanese pro driver from Nissan. So
Kazuki.
Kazuki Hiramin. He's one of the up and coming stars in Japan, racing Super GTs, which is like DTM in Asia. Him and I will be sharing a car for the 4-hour races, VLN 1 and VLN 2.
How tall is he?
He's taller than the average, I would say.
What, the average Japanese? So he's 5'4".
We'll see what happens next week when you get to the track. Yeah.
Okay, so the car, just on that, does it also have the pedals that move?
No, unfortunately not. So it's a bit less customized than the GT3 car. So I would say in GT racing, you get GT3, which is the top level, then GT4, and then you get this kind of M240i Cup car. So it's a touring car class.
Is it BMW's version of a Carrera Cup?
Correct. Yes.
Lamborghini Trofeo?
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So obviously a lot of focus on Nürburgring for them as well.
How close is it to a sort of TCR car? Or is it radically different from?
Yeah, radically different. I think on a lap pace, it's the same as a TCR car around the Nürburgring. So over a lap, but it's very restricted on power. So because of the rules of getting your permit A, they restrict the horsepower, because that's where the danger comes in. Obviously, speed around the Nürburgring, anything can go wrong. There's no runoff. There's 180 cars in a race.
And you've got that, after the Vluchtplatz, you've got Jan Mardenborough's corner.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, to get even to do the license is a long process. I mean, it's a 60-minute e-learning training test.
Talk us through. He's going back to school, Chris.
Yeah,
I mean, how cool is that, eh?
So
you talk us through that process. You want to race in the 24 hours at Nürburgring. Now you need a license.
Correct. So
talk us through that.
basically what happens is normally you work quite closely with one of the teams. They have good contact with the DMSB, which is like the governing body of all safety in
the MSA of Trevor.
Correct. I think that's the case. And basically you have to go through a full e-learning program. So it's an online test. I think there's 60 odd questions that you have to know about: red flags, yellow, all the different flags, different procedures, start procedures. What should you do with a faster car? I mean, it's not just like a normal test. I mean, it's not like the white book. There's a lot more detail into it because a whole lot of the procedures are very, very different.
And so there's a lot of the theory of driving.
Yeah, you have to. So a lot of the safety things, they have to be very, very hectic on safety. I think a lot of crashes have happened there, and it can happen very quickly.
So you've done this part.
Done that, passed it. Yeah, you have to get
what mark could you get?
100%. Yeah,
Well,
you have
of
to get
course,
100%. Otherwise, you don't do it. Yeah,
Really?
I had to study. Yeah, you have to
That's
get
your
100%. You have to get 100%. Otherwise, they don't. I mean, you get, I think, 2 or 3 attempts. And then once you do that, then you have to do what's it called, a permit course. Basically, is like a driver training course for 2 days, the Thursday and the Friday before the VLN race normally. And then you sit with, I think, 12 or 14 other guys in a car that obviously has to be a certain power, and you go through with instructors. You do a full track walk. You do...
Track walk is in a bus.
In a bus, yeah. To walk 25 kilometers might take a while.
Yeah,
So...
2 hours.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool, and that's pretty pretty intense. And then obviously once you've done that, you have to do, I think, 5 laps in front of the instructors, another 5 laps behind the instructors, and obviously a lap is 9-10 minutes. So it's long laps. And then after that, then they say cool, they rank you and say cool, here's your permit B. Now with permit B means you can actually race the VLN race in any category below GT4.
Below GT4.
Below GT4.
Okay.
Yeah, so which means you can race the old Opel Manta if you want. You
We
can
got
race
in all the races. That's one of our favorite cars, Foxtail.
Foxtail.
Yeah, it's done every
I think every single
N24 and finished. And what was it last year?
Last year,
They had a
crash.
whole
Oh,
problem, and
shame.
everybody came and helped. And love that stuff.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So, and then with that you have to do. So that means you get permit B. Then you have to do, I think it's a total of 18 racing laps per driver to get your permit A. But obviously not just to get it. You have to, then they look at all your lap times. They look at your safety rating from a driver's perspective. Did you cause any accidents? Did you not? And then with that, you have permit A, which allows you to then enter in a GT3 or GT4 car at the Nürburgring. So it's quite intense. I mean, David Perel last year, he was 1 lap away from getting his permit A, so he couldn't actually start. He had a Ferrari drive, but he couldn't start the race because he didn't have permit A. And it happens like that. Your teammate can be driving and have a bad accident, and you're sitting in the pits and you don't do your laps.
Or it can rain and you run out of time.
Yes, exactly. That's a big thing because obviously, the rain pace is a lot slower, and the laps is what counts.
Is it 19 or 20 laps?
I think it's 18. I think it's 18
Okay,
laps.
18, so 10, that's 180. It's 3 hours of driving.
It's a lot of driving. Exactly. It's a lot of driving. And that's what we say now. So at least with myself and Kazuki, we're in 2 races as 2 hours each per race. So for 4 hours of driving, we should guarantee enough laps to do it. Some people do it over 3 races and have an hour each race, but then it becomes risky. I mean, like last year, snow.
So that doesn't... You don't go to all this effort to get your A license for the Nürburgring for nothing.
Yeah.
Go back to our Bucky picture, Henk. Go back to the Bucky picture, because we know that next year is the new GT3 car from BMW.
Correct, yeah.
That's based around the M4.
The new M4, yeah, correct.
So M6 dies, sadly.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
but it's the biggest car in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge.
I mean, it dwarfs everything else.
Very,
All the memes around.
Correct.
I mean, it's as big as that. In fact, the Buckies, those are comparative pictures. They are true to scale. That's how big that thing is. I'm right. Huh?
Yeah. No, obviously, look, for me, it's obviously when everything happened last year, we didn't expect to get where we were last year in terms of doing the Spa 24 hours, doing Barcelona, and also doing the Kyalami 9 hour. And now we're in a position to say, well, why not see what we can do? And hopefully something comes along the way. Hopefully somebody drops a bag of gold in my lap and we can go racing, because we had a lot of offers this year to do the GT World Endurance Championship, and it's just financially not viable. It's really, really, when you look at rands, it's a lot of money now.
And particularly what's the euro now?
18.3, I think, today.
You can see any racing driver.
Knows exactly.
And importer.
And importer.
18.3 if you're buying or you're selling. I mean,
correct.
To buy it, I mean, that's...
Yeah, it's crazy. So even if you find South African funding or people that support, which we did last year, it's tough now. It makes it 15-20% more expensive than it would have been just from a year ago. And that's, I think, the big challenge is that a lot of the South Africans went over in 2012-13. The euro was at 11-12. You know, it makes a difference. So anyway,
it's devalued 15% since the 1st of January, just to give you an idea of where we sit.
Exactly, and that's direct
importers of coloured dyes. Questions, queries, comments both for Gennaro on GT racing and Foscar racing.
I've got a
question. And for Chris on rallying. And yes, you've also got people watching.
How long is that permit valid for once you have obtained it?
Yeah, so once you get permit B and permit A, I think you are basically, you have it for life, but you have to renew it every single year. So you have to go through the online test every single year, and you pay your euros, and you do your test, and you get the license. So like I know
the great
Calvin,
business there,
I mean it's recurring. So Calvin, Sheldon, Jordan, they all had to do their tests. My David even phoned me saying, "Cheapers, don't worry about this question. It's a bit tricky." So the guys have to all do it every single year.
So now the next little trick that comes along, I was about to say send the questions and queries to him, and he will ask whoever he thinks, because he, the horn dog, has become a bit of a fixture.
We do have a question from Dad. What's happening? I don't know if that means like, how's it, guys? What's happening? Or if
from who?
What's happening? Is it working? Yeah.
He's probably technologically struggling to see the show. Maybe he's paused it or something. I don't know.
No, he's got tears in his eyes from memories of that car.
The Ford behind
us.
And
I looked for the picture, Vito, of the crash landing. Let's rather talk about the takeoff, because the takeoff was magnificent. And Pitt Westrat, I had a chat with him. Pitt built that, or was there at the time, and after Serge Dumpy hurt Vito's back. But geez, those were interesting
good
times.
Days. Yeah, that was in the good days when motorsport was really thriving and really, I think, really strong in South Africa and the economy.
But it's coming back. I'm a huge fan of racing. If it's sucks, squeeze, bangs and blows, I love it. And if it's got petrol or tires and makes a noise, it just does it for me. But old rally cars. We're going to talk specifics on National Rally Championship a little bit later. If you could bring that car here, you can run it in the National Rally Championship this year, can't you? That RS 1700T.
Yes, the National Rally Championship this year is embarking on a new journey. I think it's very exciting for everyone. The days of works teams, like we know, are basically over. So we can actually allow historic cars to race and to actually compete equally with the modern cars for the overall South African National Rally Championship. So you're going to have four-wheel drive cars, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive all together, and with some little bit of a tweak in equalizing them through the points. I think it's going to be one heck of a show this year.
You spoke about driving a rally car. What was it?
Actually, I think it was in 2007. I tested Gugu Zulu's old A5 in Uitenhage. That was fun. That was loads of fun. I was there with Keith Coleman and the old team, and we spent a day there around Uitenhage. That was phenomenal. That was really, really cool. But obviously, I was like 16, 17 at the time. So I know some of the youngsters are getting into rallying now as well. So
we want to talk now. There's a 15-year-old now. We're going to talk about that. Just to go back to Nürburgring. You've got it downloaded on your simulator?
Jeepers, Colin. If I've done less than 150 laps, it's not true. I promise you, it's every night the past month I've been probably doing 2 hours of sim just to learn the track. I mean, 150 odd corners. And even I know now when I go there, I've been there before, but I've never actually done a proper lap around the track. And I know when I go there, it's going to be like a whole new world anyways. It was the same with Spa. I mean, you do as much as you can on the sim, and you do laps.
Spa's got
19 corners, yeah. But still.
And Nürburgring's, what's it, 176?
Something like that. That's a lot.
Plenty.
24 kilometers.
Now, Jackie X was my hero when I grew up, and he was a master in the rain at Nürburgring. He didn't have a sim. The skill and the memory of these guys, it's different.
Yeah, it is. Things have changed. Technology has really brought motorsport together. I mean, we see even Calvin when he did his Formula E test in Marrakesh now. He was the fastest in the first session. He's never driven a single seater. But you know, he spent time in Ingolstadt at the simulator. He did some testing there, and it just shows. I mean, even like Sheldon and the guys are always on the simulator doing laps, getting their hand-eye. It's really brought it a lot closer, which I think it's changed because in the day, like you said, with Jackie X and those guys, your talent was in how quickly you adapted to racetracks, how well you could push towards the limit and find the limit, how quickly
and stay
alive and stay on the limit. Whereas now it's opened up a whole lot of kettle of fish, and that's what we see now in GT3 racing, is that a lot of the guys from single seaters are now going to GT3 racing because it's half the price. Formula 2 and Formula 3 is so expensive. So they're saying, well, we'll bring the budget to a GT3 and off we go race for a whole season.
And they can have a good go with the top line team, which is, I think,
for sure,
the difference.
For sure, 100%.
So you've got a question from someone?
I don't know. I have a cool comment from Greg Charman saying that the Ford, your dad's old car, should be insured for £2 million. Wow.
Jeez.
So he says nobody's going to be driving that much.
No.
Can you imagine rolling that in a milli field? It's going to be awkward.
Please, no.
And we know what happens if you don't have insurance on...
Don't go there. Too soon. Touchy subject. There are a couple of no-go zones that we've got, but we're not going to go there. They are no-go zones. Right. Rallying. Chris, you've got a new name for that. You are the chairman of the National Rally Championship Committee, the head honcho, the big cheese, the main man.
Yeah.
Luckily, and there's a new... Tell us the news.
I have to just add the interim. So luckily I can...
It sounds like a government, there are all these acting.
Yes.
So you're an acting chairman. No, chairman.
That's right. Just because I'm still competing, and we actually want to give the championship a go this year. So you can't really be one of the organizing committee and still try and compete.
Yeah,
so we're doing a bit of restructuring to bring the committee into the real world where it's more run like a business, with proper job descriptions and so on, and someone to look after it in a proper way going forward. We can't use other people's money and they not run the business professionally. So once that is in place, a little bit of my experience as an entrepreneur, as much as I can put in there and get it up and running, then I'll have to step back. We're looking for someone to become the chairman, and we're looking for someone that's almost like an independent person. Maybe you can qualify, Colin.
I am so biased, absolutely biased. I'm completely non-independent. If it goes fast, I love it. But no, on a serious note, you've run a very successful wire harness business for all sorts of secret stuff.
Yeah.
What are the lessons that you learn from a business? And I mean, motorsport, so on the one side, you've got all the procedures and processes that need to be followed.
Yeah.
And the history of racing in South Africa, racing, rallying, and motorsport is basically, there was nobody to organize it, so everybody volunteered and got crapped on for doing a cuck job, and moaned at by the guys who didn't shape. Because in general, I've never heard of anybody bitch and moan when they win. Have you? In motorsport, doesn't happen.
No, then everyone has done a great job.
Yeah, because, the winner...
Especially the driver.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's only effectively, and I know it sounds harsh, but it's the losers that complain. So what are the lessons you bring from running a proper business into, how do you translate that into motorsport?
Well, you didn't prepare me for this question, but...
I didn't prepare myself for it, but it just popped in my head. You know what comes in my head.
I think you mentioned two of the words already, procedures and processes. The business that we have, it's an export business, and we produce products. Some of the products are built into civil aviation industry, so safety and quality is key. And in any such an industry, you cannot achieve quality without correct processes. And I believe that we should run the motorsport committees and so on that same level, that for everything we we try to achieve, we have a plan, and if we can pen it on a piece of paper from step 1 to 10, then it really is a process. And if that process works, we can tell
Then
everybody.
you can replicate it.
Yeah, sure.
Exactly, and we can also publicize it. So it's no secret. You know, we've been accused of being secret societies enough. I don't still know the secret handshake, but
Well, that's changed now because of Corona.
Well,
Corona.
the secret foot shake.
I
But
think-
you know, it isn't. I think once you have it set up like a proper business, any proper business advertises their successes, and everyone can see that it's run properly. And if we do the same thing, we can also make public everything we do and be completely transparent.
I think you're right on the money. Look at the Ferrari situation now with the FIA. There's a prime example. There's something that's gone on in the background that hasn't been sort of documented. There's a grey area.
There always will be grey areas in rules. I just want to say something
I
about this
agree
because
with
the
you.
whiners and the whingers, they want to know. Okay, so there's some rules. Ferrari got murva clever, and they found the loophole, and that thing went fast. Then the FIA said, "Excuse me, you've made a loophole," and they couldn't work out what it was. So in order to find out what it is, they had to make a deal. Now all the other guys who weren't that clever, they want to know because. And bugger off, man. There's a secret thing. You got found out. You didn't break a rule, but it was against the spirit. We've invented a new rule. It was like the same as a steering wheel. Imagine if Mercedes were going down the straight, very, very clever.
Do that action very well, by the way.
It's completely genius. Keep your wheels tracking in a straight line.
As soon as you start. It's
Look for you go onto two toe curves with steering. Completely clever. Now if they'd shut up, it's
done it slowly.
But you've still got a body governing a sport, and you know, on your sort of note, for the sake of the sport, transparency should really be, you know, where you found somebody and made a ruling on something, that should be public knowledge.
well. What if you really don't follow all the McLaren and not McLaren, the Red Bull whiners and whingers? Is that they weren't in transgression of a rule, but there was a clarification of the fuel flow.
Yeah, there was a finding. That's the point.
There was a finding. No, they said, "Were you doing this? There's no rule for it. Now, but in order to stop you doing that, we're going to do this." That's just like they wrote into the rules. You can only go like this with your steering wheel. You can't go like that with it. You were sorry. I just
Sorry, we were just.
sorry. I just love this.
That's
shit.
fine.
I love it.
That's fine.
Can you do that in racing? I mean, in rallying. There's lots of. Oh, if you're a certain manufacturer, you can do turbo stuff. Interestingly, with the variable geometry of the turbos. But we won't go there, will we?
No.
What other exciting things is happening in rallying? Kids,
I read some stuff. There's lots of cool stuff going on.
Jaden.
Well, let's start with the national championship.
Yes.
How that's going to take shape this year. So I mentioned that the classes are changed. So the classes will be easy to identify. They will be NRC 1 to NRC 5. NRC 1 will be the top dogs, and they will be the four-wheel drive cars. And the cars that will qualify there will be the old Group N4 cars, the Subis, the Evos, and so on. More or less within the original homologation, and we allow changes to save cost.
Okay, cool.
And
What sort of changes would you allow?
well, swap out of components that are no longer available, locally
instead
made
of-
components,
Okay.
etc. So basically fit, form and function, but locally manufactured, cost reduction,
Okay.
and obsolescence issues.
But not
so-
safety.
Not safety, no.
Okay, cool.
No. So, and then the old S2000 cars will be back, and they're great. The spectators love them. They sound like rally cars. They rev,
Yeah.
and you've got to keep them revving. So they're always exciting to watch.
Difficult to drive quick.
Difficult, yes. So
And difficult to work on.
How
and
many
they
will
cost
you have?
F loads to run.
well, we believe in the first event there will be two S2000 cars. There's
Toyota
a bunch.
and a Ford.
We don't know exactly what the one crew will be driving. They have a Toyota and a Ford in their team, but we think it will be probably a Toyota that they will use.
Is that because the Ford's being repaired after an issue?
No, that's not the case. No, they're doing other events as well, so they're still choosing which car to use where exactly. And then we will have a few of the old N4 cars. I'm not exactly sure. All the entries haven't been received yet, but there will probably be 2 or 3 of those.
Because we're 2 weeks out from the rally at the moment.
Correct, yes.
It's getting...
It is.
And this is the NTT Toyota.
Yeah.
Round 1 of the Rally Championship based in Delmas. And sorry to jump around, we're still going to go to N2, 3, 4 and 5.
Yes.
And where does my BDA Escort fit in there? That's the one. But the rally headquarters is at the Toyota dealership in Delmas.
Yes. It's moved from where it was last year, where it was a little bit off the road, a little bit secluded. With NTT Delmas coming on board as a sponsor, it made sense to move the show to their location. It gives them better exposure, but it will also give better exposure to the event overall. And of course, competitors will get that exposure with their sponsors. There's going to be many more people that will visit the service park. And with the stages in very close proximity, spectator guides available at the service park, then not far to drive to go and watch. We're also going to run stages consecutively. So let's say, for instance, stage 2, you'll be able to watch, cars will go to service, and then come back to the same stage, and you can watch them again in stage 3.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
They don't have to move around.
Because that was the one thing about rallying is you end up with, servicing. You end up in a race, and it ends up going from place to place. And I want to put my bra there, get a cool drink.
Exactly.
And
then a lot of this stuff will take place over lunchtime on Saturday. So, we encourage people to look at the social media sites, look at SARallying. Once the spectator guide is available, go and see. Over Saturday lunchtime, it's going to be great action because you're going to be able to go to 2 locations and really watch 4 stages, which is almost a whole days of entertainment. And
fun.
rallying is free. There's no gate.
There are just a couple of things from, if you go and walk into a stage, don't go and stand on the outside of the corner. The bottom line is don't be just be nice. Think of where a car can go off. Don't try and stand in the trajectory of a car because it's not clever. Right, so NRC2, what are those?
Yeah, just to get back to NRC1, I think the important thing to say is that in that class you'll always also have the new FIA homologated cars, the so-called R4 cars or Rally 2 kit cars.
Guy Bartels just come in. He said his should be back from the Ivory Coast, so we got crossed for that. It seems like, Guy, you spend your life trying to get cars out of ports.
Are you sure, Guy? Okay, so and any 4-wheel drive rally car fits in NRC1?
Basically, yes.
Cool.
In theory, you can bring a Group B Quattro if you wanted to, but the technical committee would reserve the right to equalize performance. So, with such a Group B beast would obviously have to have a smaller restrictor or whatever the case may be.
Right, so we're going to have at least two R4 cars, am I right?
That's right, yes. Providing the ports
so
cooperate.
Guy will have his Toyota and you will have one as well.
Yes, we'll be running the Hyundai i20 that we had at the Autosport show in January. So that's also still on the way back from the UK. It was supposed to arrive in Cape Town this morning, actually. So we'll have to see tomorrow whether it actually did.
That's pretty cool. So that's going to be an interesting... And who's navigating for you?
It's going to be Greg Godridge.
Okay, cool. Again, still.
Good experience. He's done a lot of rallying with Janelle in S2000. So he'll be able to guide me a little bit. It's going to be my first event in a four-wheel drive car.
Yeah.
So,
are you nervous yet?
Yes, I am. But our approach is to prove, at the Rally of South Africa, I think a lot of people said, oh, that was an imported car and you used one of the best drivers. So maybe it wasn't such a good victory. I believe if I can win the rally, people will definitely say it was the car, not the driver.
Do you believe you can win the rally?
Yes.
Otherwise,
for sure.
Going. I mean, any driver who isn't in having a go to win.
No, well,
Go and
that's a
Brian.
fair question.
So, Guy, there's a bit of a challenge there.
Greg
It's an
Chalmers
expensive
says
car, so we'll
servicing-
take it a little bit easy the first few stages and then watch the times. And if we see
And
we're
then
close
pin it.
enough, we're going to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, and those things, it's got a 1600 turbo motor. They're all the same. The mechanicals are all basically the same, and they get built, and the position of all the suspension and that sort of stuff. The performance defining items are common, and you've got different body shells on it. It's going to be, and they're quick. They are bloody quick, and
They are very quick.
even though it's only a 1600 turbo.
For sure.
1600 turbo. If we think back to Nelson Piquet qualifying BMW, of course, at Kyalami, 1600 horsepower. It's mind blowing. So you haven't quite got that much right.
No, luckily not.
NRC2, we're
Yes.
going through classes. It's not as faster as the ones.
No, NRC2 is the old R2 cars that were the Premier class for the last 3 years.
1600 revers, front wheel drive,
revers,
sequential box,
Yeah, quite quick. I mean,
Yeah.
they are much faster than they look.
normally aspirated, eh?
Normally aspirated, but we have allowed from last year, under certain conditions, the 1000cc turbocharged engines.
We've
And
got
there
a
will
picture,
definitely
Henk,
be
of that
one-
white and lime green VW Polo.
That's right. This car was very quick at the end of the year last year. And
RC
I believe,
Potgieter,
yeah, and that's going to be the car to beat in R2.
I
believe this
saw,
year
I
for
saw
sure.
them out at the cross country earlier, and that thing's
They've
going to
already
be.
been busy
Yeah.
for the whole year. They've done a lot of testing. They've sorted out all the problems. So really,
Trevor
watch,
Blander's
watch out for that
working
car.
that
I
thing,
think
yeah.
they're going to do well. RC is an awesome driver. He's gonna be the one to catch.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've got, that's R2. R3?
In RC3,
Yeah, I mean, NRC.
that is
So let's
reserved
fill up
for
the NRC.
that's reserved for the new Polo Vivo GT Cup. I hope I got it right.
Exciting times there.
Yes, definitely.
And we're going to talk about Polo Cup, the Uttinger Polo GTI Cup that's coming up, but that's at the end of the show.
But we had this chat before the show, and it's great that VW are sticking their necks out and getting some one-make series out there, supporting rally, supporting circuit racing. It's
They've
great.
built 11 Super Polo.
Polos.
Gee, we're going to talk about that at some other stage. They built, and there was a huge production line on those things. Great value for money car, quick AF, and now the last one is, I'm told that it is being delivered, some say. My sources tell me, my impeccable source told me that he thinks his car number 11, should be delivered in the next day or two. And his name
Shall be revealed later.
shall be revealed later. Right,
And
so that's
I
now the
believe
Polo
there
Viva
might
Cup.
actually be a 12th car as well. So
Really?
Yes.
Ah,
So field's growing for sure.
our sources say.
No, okay, now that's a new one, because this guy, he went from being super interested on Thursday last week to the car's his and it should be delivered this week. You got to love that stuff. But we're going to talk to him because right. And so Polo Viva Cup, and the reason we raised that is because there've been delays. Get that in the production line at VW. Get that out, and we've
Yeah.
got 4 Vivo GD.
There's 3 on order currently. There's quite a few more that are interested. I think a lot of the competitors would just like to see the first
Yeah.
production model. A lot of people have tested the
The hack,
test car,
yeah.
the hack car. That's done a lot of mileage. It's run for almost 2 years to prove the reliability, but it looks a bit knackered by now. So people obviously want to see the real McCoy before they put the money down.
And the one thing I've got to say about what Micro and VW Motorsport have done is when they build the cars, they come out proper, almost like the German or the international production racing cars. They proper, neat, tidy, lacquer, with all the right bits and kits in it, and bits and bits,
yeah.
and doesn't cost a lot. Talking about fathers and sons rallying, Benjamin Haubig is one of them. Yanni Haubig's son.
Yeah, so you'll be driving the first of the Vivo Cup cars that will hit the stages. We hope that they have the new car ready. for the first event. If they don't, I believe he'll be driving the hack car,
Okay.
which will be brought up from Cape Town.
Now, he rallied last weekend, and I believe he found sugarcane fields.
Yes, when I heard he was going to drive an A7 car on Illingham, which is a famous stage on the south coast. I think any rally driver gets goosebumps talking about Illingham, but it's slippery as hell. It's not very narrow, very wide, and it's cambered. So there's really only one line on that track, and it's fast. And I believe he did get his first wide-eye moment on the very first run. But they managed to fix the car, and subsequent to that, on run 2 and 3, he did the fastest times. So the speed is there. It is Arabic.
Yeah.
He probably does have the lead in his right foot, so it'll be great.
It's amazing the level of breeding that we've got in this country. You look at your dad, you look at yourself, Sean with Sheldon and Kelvin. The breeding that just comes down. Habeg, who are the other ones that are? The Peppers. I mean, and there it's crossed boys and girls. Campos. I mean, what a lovely picture. Giraffe's dad, David Perrell and Sheldon.
Pepper.
I mean, Pepper, the short one.
Yeah.
But I didn't recognize Pepper because he hasn't got that bloody moustache.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, that was proper porn star moustache, that. I didn't. Right, so now we got the Vivo Cup cars, and essentially that's a 3-cylinder turbo petrol.
Yes, 1-cylinder turbo.
3-cylinder.
One,
Yeah, it's missing
1 litre, sorry, 1 litre.
1 litre.
One
And they
cylinder
sound very
wouldn't-
lekker. They
that'd
sound
a
kind
bit
of.
shit if it was 1 cylinder.
It sounds
I was
almost
gonna
like a
say.
Porsche.
Yeah. No, they are quick. The hack car was actually too quick because that had a 6-speed gearbox, and with the gearing, it could do over 200 kilometers an hour. So it would be too fast for an entry-level car.
You dig that on a dirt road.
that'll
Did
be-
it with standard brakes, smart biscuit tires. I think you'd find a few more fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with a production car, that will be limited. I believe they're taking 1 gear out of the gearbox, the 6th gear, and then the speed will be limited. So it should be, I would say, around a second or so, a kilometer slower than the top line are 2 cars, which would be a good pace for an entry-level car. And it would still be, in terms of a front-wheel drive car, a very quick car.
And in order to run a underpowered-ish car quick, you've got to carry whether it's dirt or tar, you've got to carry apex speed, corner speed.
Yeah.
And that teaches
Yes,
good driving.
For sure. I think the youngsters will be a little bit spoiled with a turbo car because it's got a lot of torque. So you can enter a corner in the wrong gear and get away with it and so on. So maybe moving to a different category of car, they will find that a bit of a challenge, but that's what growth is about.
So that's 3.
That's 3, yeah.
Now NRC 4.
NRC4, bring it if you've got it, but 2-wheel drive. So that'll be all your old A5, A6, A7, A8 rally cars.
Nissan Skyline,
Anything.
Ford
Well,
Escort.
no. That's the classic class. So rear-wheel drive,
Oh, you mean there's another one?
yeah, that's reserved for NRC5. So we don't want to
Okay.
have you can run an old Golf 1 in classic, but you can also run it in the full front-wheel drive open class. So you can choose there. I believe it's, if it's proper classic specification, you haven't modified, put fuel injection or whatever, it would be more appropriate to run it in a classic class, because in the front-wheel drive class, there'll be a few cars that'll be too quick.
Okay, but you also could run, say, a BDA Escort, but with a Duratec motor in it, because BDAs are like gold.
Correct. So it's all about getting costs down. And
What would you run in that?
Cheapers.
Microphone.
I have no idea. I honestly know. The old BM, the old
2002.
old E30s. It would be, or the old E46 would be lekker. And I think Kwesi Swanepoel's got a whole series in Cape Town. He wanted to start on ovals or something with those old Beamers. Those are lekker. Also a Skyline with Hannes Grobler. That'd be cool.
Yeah, 6 cylinders. Anything with 6 cylinders.
yeah, and incidentally, in the Scandinavian countries, there's a lot of those rear-wheel drive BMs, Volvos even, and they're the most popular class, definitely.
And then the last, so the 4 is classics, and
Five is
five is classics.
Yeah. Yeah. So there
So if you
we've made it a bit simpler. The classics, we don't want people to come out with proper Group 4 homologated cars with gearboxes that cost $1 million and BDG engines and so on, because then we just won't have the field.
Yeah.
So if it looks right, you know, and it hasn't basically gone away too far from the original car, certain things must definitely remain, period. But certain things, it's impractical. So with gearboxes, for instance, you can put a modern gearbox in, you can change to a more modern diff, but you're not allowed to change the basic layout. So if it was a live axle car, you've got to keep the live axle.
I love the motorsport goes through cycles, and rallying is not at the heyday of Ford versus Datsun versus Audi, and Chev was in there. There were 5 or 6
You
manufacturers.
forgot Toyota.
And Toyota. No, they weren't then. I'm talking about the Skyline Quattro Escort era.
Yes, they were there.
Yeah, they were too.
They were
Sorry.
there. Yes,
Yeah. Okay, so that was probably its heyday, and it's come down, and now and the point I'm trying to make is that in this build-up phase is that kind of flexibility and adaptability and fitting, going back to business, adapt to your environment, fit with the circumstances that are right for the time.
Yes, we have to manage the circumstances, and to a certain extent it's a blessing. If we had, let's say, 4 factory cars involved, we would probably not be able to change the rules, because the factories wouldn't want to have their 3 million rand cars compete against backyard built cars. So now we don't have the luxury of them. But on the other hand, it gives us some more opportunities. There's a lot of rally cars in South Africa. I think there's many more than we even know. So we want to give the opportunity for everybody to come back.
To come
yeah,
and
for
race
sure.
it. Okay, so that's the classes. But I think the biggest thing, the news for me in the rally is the involvement of MRF Tyres as a big sponsor. And for those of you who don't know MRF Tyres, they are proper. They Indian company, I think the 7th or 8th largest company in the world, something like that. But they're damn big. Tyre company. And who's the largest tyre company in the world, Mr. Horn?
Firestone.
No.
Goodyear.
Lego. Lego make the most tyres in the world. Useless. So anyway, MRF, great tyres, great company. And what's the deal with the MRF tyres in the National Rally Championship by MRF?
So there's a new retail organization that's going to sell motorsport stuff that you know.
I believe.
Motorsport Technique.
Can you zoom?
Yeah. So one of the most important things that we needed to bring into South Africa, of course, are sponsors and also alternatives for the established brands. And to be honest, something that's made in India, we all expect it to be cheaper. It's a low-cost country, and indeed it is. The difference is with MRF, it's a brand that's been in motorsport for many years, and they take it seriously. So the product is suitable. It's a higher endurance than what we used to, because they've made it for harsher conditions. It's not a European tire, it's more an Asia-Pacific style tire. And they had that backbone right. And because they tried to tender, or they did tender for the WRC contract, they also involved some very, very highly qualified tire engineers to then make the tires quicker as well. So we've got a very good product, good price, and good performance. And they have come on board with some money. And that's the big no-brainer.
That's huge news in these times in motorsport. Absolutely. That you got a new sponsor, and B.
So basically, the MRF money is saving the National Rally Championship this year. Because if it wasn't for that, we would not be in a position to go into the season comfortably and to be able to assure clubs that when they organize events, they were not going to lose money.
Okay, I think that's an important thing.
That's very important.
Yeah.
What you were saying about your tires being more durable, I reading through your press release this morning about your tire bank and so on. Why don't you tell us a bit about that? Because I think that is one of the coolest ideas ever.
Yeah, so we believe that with a new tire, the wear rate is much lower. And if people are still using the same amount of tires that they used to, their second-hand tires will still be usable. The last couple of years, because we've decreased the number of tires that's allowed per rally, the national guys really wrecked the tires. So by the end of the event, they had nothing left to give away. So with this tire, we believe a used tire will still have good mileage on them.
It just will have lost the sharp edges, so it's not quite as quick.
And the new tire technology, it's amazing. We did a lot of testing, and we've used tires that when we think they're knackered, we actually got the best times out of them. So the tires have changed a lot. And don't ask me how they do it, but it's obviously to do with the compound.
Tires are a black art.
Yeah.
Black art.
So what we're going to do is, together with Motorsport Technique, they're going to offer a buyback scenario where the national competitors, when they receive their new tires, they can trade in their old tires. And
that's good. I mean, that's a total. There's a bit of innovation.
Yeah,
you know?
And then they will be sorted into grades.
Yeah. Faster, not so fast.
We'll see as it goes along how the grades come back, but maybe start off with 2 grades and then sell them to the privateer guys at a really, really ridiculous price, like $50 or $100 each.
It'll boost your competitors in the field, for sure.
Yes, and in the past, if you didn't know one of the top teams, you were a nobody that didn't know anybody. You couldn't
or
get
they
tires.
didn't like you.
Or they didn't like you or whatever. And then certain people got the pick of the tires. So if I had a buddy at Toyota Motorsport, I would be able to get the best ones and the other people would get the worst ones. This will be completely fair and first come, first serve.
Basically, arrive at the
shop, yeah. And pick your tires from a pile. That's the 50 Rand pile. I want 10, please. And off you go.
Have you got memories of going to rallies in the old days and watching your dad and Sir?
Yeah, plenty, Colin. I mean, I had my first broken bone in a rally service park. I fell off one of the service vans, the old Toyota taxi service van, call them taxis, but that's what they were.
Yeah,
supercharged high-As those back in the day. I fell off the top, broke my collarbone. I think it was in Swaziland. And yeah, I mean, those were the good days. I mean, like I said, the 90s, that was when I was a lighty and my dad was in the top form, and money was crazy back then. I mean, he gave me an indication of what the big manufacturers used to spend on rallying in the 90s. That's like tens of millions in today's money. And it was a phenomenal series. And I think what you guys are doing is fantastic. And I think tires, fuel, all the things that are the most common things, you can try and cut down on those. The other costs will always be there, whether you rally a S2000 or a WRC car. You still have fixed costs.
You've got to eat and stay and travel.
Exactly. Those will always stay the same. But if you can cut down on some of the main elements of development of running, you stand in good stead. So yeah.
Now, the other thing that you've done, just from a cost point of view, is on a number of the rallies, the national championship rallies, you've amalgamated or combined the regionals into that as well. But there's a trick. This is like a trading, 2 for 1. What's the story there?
Well, we've had regional rallies running with national series rallies for a while, but one of the things that we found is that some of the regional competitors still stay away because the costs are exorbitant. So now we're attacking the problem from all sides, one of them being the tire bank. We also we're trying to get off a so-called clothing bank or gear bank. There's loads of motorsport people that used to be in works teams and so on that have suits and gloves and whatever coming out their ears that almost don't know what to do with them. So we're going to ask all of them to let us know what it is they've got. Tell us, I've got a size 44 set of boots at my house and it's going to go on the register. And then if somebody needs something like that, we're going to ask the parties to get together and it will be a donation type thing.
Okay, cool.
So we have a lot of regional competitors. They're just starting out. We still have minimum safety regulations, so you still need your safety gear. So if you've got to buy all of that, buy a license, buy tires, buy fuel, that barrier of entry is just too big. So you get people, they will own a rally car, they can do rally sprints and social events, but their first real competitive event is just a bridge too far. So
Yeah,
we're trying to break that wall down.
I think that's hell of important. You know, just in barriers to entry. You raced a GD3. Your helmet, 80 grand.
Yeah, helmet's about 50 grand. You need, it's just insane.
Well, that was then.
Yeah, you're right. And all the stuff you need, all the wiring for your helmets, the drink stuff, the food, what you eat, what you wear. It's just insane. But that's obviously completely at the top level. But still, you're right. That's the biggest thing always in motorsport is when you start, what do you first need? And it's for you and a co-driver in rallying. That's where it's double the cost.
The point of what I was meaning is that even at your level, or GD3 level, it costs shitloads.
Yeah.
So a guy who's battling to build a car and finish a car, and he's got to go and spend 20 grand on, because the basic new kit is 20 grand.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's with a cheap helmet.
Sure.
Your mom says you're a nightmare on rallies, by the way.
Well, he's
I was,
Hold on.
exactly.
Kathy,
She used to probably have to
he
look
is a
after
nightmare,
me.
full stop.
Yeah,
She also
not
wants
on
to know
rallies.
why we don't have any tequila.
Oh, jeepers. It's a weekday.
Yeah?
It's Wednesday.
Yeah?
Your
Weekday.
Raymond Cornwall's
Kathy's blushing.
involved
Oh,
there.
jeepers.
He's blushing.
He
I've
wants to know
got-
if you're sitting on the floor.
I'm an athlete now, you know.
Oh.
Stopped it.
Right, let's go back to the rally. You got a gear bank. There was something else that I've got here.
Yeah,
I
I think
what you brung.
I think the one you asked about is really the license fee as well.
Yeah, that one.
So,
Because this is a license fee. Sorry.
So the regional rally committee up here in the northern regions will be running a 2-for-1 special on the MSA license.
Well, you've
So-
got an Indian tire. Sorry. Moving on.
Yeah, so
2 for 1.
the idea is that a crew, obviously driver, co-driver, will need licenses, and they can either take this advantage for a one-event license or for a season license. So unfortunately, we can't waive the insurance fee. So
You
both
don't want to,
competitors would
But
have
you
to
wouldn't
pay
want
that.
to, I don't
No,
think. As a
no.
competitor, you wouldn't want to be in
We're
that
on that
position.
insurance thing again, but yes, so the medical insurance is mandatory, but the basically just one of the crew members will pay the license fee.
I think that's brilliant.
So
Absolutely fantastic.
if we have all these things combined, and then the regional entry fee will only be $500. So what
500
motorsport-
rand to enter a motor race in South Africa now is like,
Sounds like Saturday Night Drags.
yeah.
Exactly. So we believe that
And he's not even talking about cars.
we hope that this will really encourage people that do have cars but that haven't rallied before to really just come out, have fun. And when the bug bites, you're going to want to do it again.
He just whispered quietly off microphone. Has anybody got a car?
500 rand, I'm in. Honestly, it's only like €4. So I'm in, you know, may as well.
No, you haven't poured a bottle of water.
Yeah, exactly.
The other, just talking about kids, Jaden Else, 15 years old, world champion Rotax karting.
Incredible karter, yeah.
He-
Done a hell of a lot over the years.
So we're going to get to him because this is going to be, he's racing this weekend as well, but we'll talk about that now with Benjamin Habeck. What is the other cool thing, just one more thing about rallying this year? I'm seeing our executive producers getting anxious on time.
I think the last thing I would mention, but I don't want to give the secret away, but towards the end of the year, a really cool new event. Going back to some nice forest stages.
I think I
Rough area?
know.
Give us a rough area.
In South Africa.
Well, closer to Sabi than you think.
Oh, okay. Lekker. Well, we love
Closer
that
to
because
Joburg.
Sabi or Durban?
No, Sabi.
Sabi.
That way, but closer.
Closer.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
and the thing is, there was a time, the last couple of years, where we said, let's bring rally to the people. And that's great.
Yeah.
And you get the spectators and so on. But it means you around Millifields all the time.
No,
So
forest, long flowing forest
It's
roads.
really firstly about the competitor.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we believe is if we have proper rallies, we can also bring some international competition to the
That'll
country.
be brilliant.
So that's the long-term goal. And watch out for a really great event towards the end of the year.
That's going to be fantastic. And I think, can we mention what Raceday is going to be doing with rally?
Absolutely. Was that the one you were hinting
No.
about?
It actually just came to mind when you were saying about going away into the forest. We're going to follow the rallies from a pit point of view with some interviews and all of that. So that's why I
What we
just
do
love
best.
frickin' motorsport. It's going to be cool. Get into the forest, smell the dust and the petrol, and get all sweaty and lekker with a boerewors roll on a Saturday afternoon.
If I can end it off like this, to say one of the things that we've decided to try and push, and we're not maybe inventing this concept, but it's the experience. And I believe a lot of media coverage in the past didn't really relay that message. And we believe that you and your crew bring that with your knowledge and the way you present and so on. So what we want is a show that make people want to come next time.
Jesus,
And
no
that-
pressure, hey?
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure.
So, sorry, that maybe sounded bad.
No, that
Well,
wasn't
anyway.
in the blooming SLA. I mean, I thought it was just go to rallies and check it out and have fun. No, there's business deal at Raceday. No. Anyway, right, moving along. Chris, we really
Very quickly.
Hold on, you got
I'm done.
Greg Sharman says servicing and rallies was a nightmare because if you weren't there before the driver, you were in cuck. And he also says before he can apply for event accreditation in Europe, he has to have £5 million worth of public liability insurance.
That's because there's so many trouble causes in Europe. We don't cause trouble here. You only need public liability. If you cause Greg, we love you. Get the insurance, and he's got some lovely work that he's
He's
coming.
awesome, and he also wants to know, maybe in Hasty's helpful hints, why a guard on an angle grinder is important.
Because Hasty's helpful hints. Don't take the guard off your angle grinder because you cut your thumb. Also wear grippy shoes on a fish pond so you don't break your ankle. I mean, what's this thing? It's an elbow, sorry. Because it's sore, it's very sore, and fish poo is fraught. Right, this weekend, the rallies we look forward to, the German N24, the Green Hill. You're going to go and stay with Kelvin, and he's going to give you some hints.
Yeah, hopefully. No, I'm flying out next week and
To Belgium. With
to Frankfurt, straight to Frankfurt,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then go straight to Nürburgring, and then the next VLN2 at the end of the month, I will go with Sheldon and Kelvin from Munich. We'll drive through. And I'll go maybe stay another night at their place in Kempton and see what their simulator is all about.
Can you imagine that? Eh? I'll tell you what, you've got to send us
Strictly
some pictures.
professional.
When you're there, promise us this, that we can do an interview with the three of you, no matter what the time it is. Henk will wake up and we'll do it. Right, this weekend, What's coming up? I suppose there's a Grand Prix, and we're going to go and see a pink Mercedes and a silver Mercedes and a red Fiat do battle.
Yeah,
And
A
then
white
the
Fiat.
brat in the... There's a white Fiat as well,
yeah,
but Kimmy, my boy, is driving.
yes.
Wouldn't it be so cool
Yeah.
if Kimmy, my boy...
I
just
agree.
did it?
My
the
favourite by a
coolest
long
thing
way.
in the world, because he's got such a personality. But moving along, Swartkorps, so there's Grand Prix and there's Swartkorps. There's also a bit of NASCAR. Going to Swartkorps this weekend, and I think the big thing there is the Uttinger Polo GTI Cup. So we got some pictures. Because we think it's cool, and there's a bit of father and son stuff going on here. So Keegan Campos has no, man, we want to go back to the first picture that we got there.
Keegan's watching,
Jeez,
Jason's
you
watching,
can't
Andrew
get,
is watching.
Oh, there we go. There's Keegan Campus's car now, Salette. Brand new sponsor, which is pretty cool. They OEM approved equipment for the chassis repair industry. So and it's quite appropriate that it's in, Salette. They make lacquer jigs and stuff and all that to repair the stuff.
Thank goodness it's not on Jason's car from last year. I think he had a couple of chassis repairs.
So quite appropriate that you have chassis repairs, panel beating in Polo Cup. Then talking about the Van der Lindes, you can't get away from the Van der Lindes with Signature Motorsport and with help from Ronnie Erasmus. Chris Shorter, 4 years ago, he's the champ. He's in the first of the red cars, Chris. Henk, so those three cars, that's the Signature Motorsport. And we've got Chris Shorter, his brother Matt, and Arnold Neveling in the other Ferodo car. So that's Chris Shorter in the Monroe Shocks, and then Arnold Neveling in the Ferodo brake pads. I love the angle of those things. You've got to chuck them in. You raced polo, didn't you?
Yeah, many years. Ronnie actually at Federal Mogul was the one to start off my whole main circuit career, basically. So
Many people
it's
owe Ronnie.
no, I promise you, it's phenomenal what he and the brands Federal Mogul have done through Ferodo Champion, now Monroe. There was a whole lot of other brands, AE.
Yeah.
But I just think that they've had been incredible support of motorsport, and I think they, from the beginning, have relentlessly, done their thing. And it's good. It's good to have those kind of people in motorsport. You need them.
Long may it continue.
Yeah. And of course, Sean and Etienne van der Linde running those cars. I mean, what brains? Eh?
Experience as well. That I think in motorsport, experience counts for probably twice the qualification.
Yeah, no, hell of a lacquer. And it's good to see Wim Henny around the pit there as well. And then Total Excellium Racing, Darren and Justin Oates, twins. Mm-hmm. And they've also got a new music album coming out. I'll tell you what, these kids have got style. You thought that the giraffe was cool. You are
can actually
so
sing,
not cool. Those guys, I mean, they style. And they can sing.
Yeah. And they're both qualified engineers now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So I'll tell you what, it's scary stuff. Jaden Else, 15 years old. So he's rallying and he's doing this. And then Stuart White makes his return to track racing in South Africa after Formula Ford. And this car was launched this afternoon, SARallying Motorsport. So Stuart White and Kwanda Mokena on the development side are running that. And then the Squadra Corsa team, and this is from the VW Motorsport, again, not only building the cars, but they're running cars for, and excuse my pronunciations, Rio Baka Komani and Natium Msimanga. Have I got it right?
That was good. That was
I'll
solid.
tell you what, I did practice, but I'll get better.
It's great to see youngsters in Polo Cup. I think the best thing you could ever do is from go-karting at 15, 16, get into a Polo Cup car. It's shown with all the guys that have done. You don't need to wait. Jump in.
Yeah. Okay, it's
Formula
a way to
1600
go.
have put together a great thing this year with their single-seaters. But
Yeah, 250 grand.
prize money, yeah. We've got Jared Waberski, also a top karter, going across there, which is great. But I think, the point you make about this sort of single-seater route and the costs, I mean, I'm a single-seater man, have been my entire life, but, the progression path is just, it's terrifying.
I'm told, that we need to close this lot down because the studio is busy. There's a motorbike show. So coming on, following our super bikes, there's all sorts of stuff. It's really, really like a part of Raceday. I just want to say to Chris and Gennaro, thank you very much for joining us and taking your time and making my day a little bit better and sharing the stuff, because racing is lacquer. Do yourself a favor, get out to Swartkorps, get to a racetrack. And Andrew, thank you very much for answering all the questions and queries. To Henk for driving the show, and that joyous smile that Henk brings through the window. It is infectious. Thank you, my man. And for all of you watching, your questions, your queries, I say it every week. Be lacquer, be fast. Find a kid, preferably with its parents' permission, and take it out to see and to feel the speed of racing. Build the sport we love so much and leave something behind. Be lacquer, be fast, be safe. Thanks. Cheers. Bye.